What radio? The music you want.
With your host, Keys Dan.
Well, we're waiting.
RadioWhat.com.
What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. I have equipment, will travel. Mobile DJ is what I do. Well, amongst other things, today on the program, I have Ben Baker with Your Brand Marketing. And you're going to find out a little bit more about Ben Baker and Your Brand Marketing in your ears. So stick around for that. This week's shows, let's see, as I record this, next Thursday, I'll be at the Old Post Barbecue. It's Wednesday, so tomorrow night, I'll be at the Old Post Barbecue in Russellville, Arkansas from 6 till 9 p.m. That is the video dance party, karaoke jam, family friendly, great barbecue. Of course, they do have frosty beverages for the adults in case you care to imbibe. But, I keep the music family friendly. And since Fat Tuesday was yesterday, I might continue with the Mardi Gras theme and do a little Fat Thursday at the Old Post Barbecue. At least start out with a little Zydeco music because, I like to change it up a little bit. I play different kinds of music and maybe the people will get into it. Russellville, Arkansas. Look out, because here comes some Zydeco music. We're going to have a little fun with that. Sometimes you gotta switch it up a little bit and have some fun, and I do. I like me some Zydeco, and I hope you do too. And if it gets a little annoying to some people, I know not everybody loves all kinds of music like I do. I will switch it up. Maybe do some southern rock or some country music or whatever you want. I'm here for you. For the most part, it's a karaoke jam, and you're the stars of the show. You don't have to sing just Zydeco music. You can sing pretty much whatever you want, as long as you keep it family friendly. That's 6 to 9. Thursday night at the Old Post Barbecue, Russellville, Arkansas. And then Friday, we get down on Friday. My usual Friday night gig is over at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Video dance party, karaoke jam. Now this one is over 21. They got the full bar, kitchens open, pool tables, 10 diamond style pool tables. Look, I'm not a pool player, but I don't know what diamond style pool tables are, but they look really good. They spent a lot of money on these pool tables. So the people in the pool tournament seem to have a good time with them, and the patrons too. So they usually keep a couple of tables open for the people that don't want to get in the pool tournament. But if you want to make some money on a Friday night, I encourage you. Hey, it's all geometry. Give it a try. See what happens. You might make some money. And then on the party patio, they got foosball, shuffleboard, darts, giant Jenga game, giant checkers game. There's always something to do while you're waiting to sing on stage with little old me and sing your heart out. And there's some dancing too. We got the place lit up. It is a club after all. It's the Rab, Conway, Arkansas. That starts at 8 p.m. and it goes till almost 2 in the a.m. on Friday nights. And then on Saturday, hey, it's leap year, February 29th. I'm excited. I got a brand new place to go to on leap year. I'm heading down to Hot Springs, Arkansas this time. And this is a new place called Trejos on the Lake. And it's a Mexican restaurant. They have live music there from time to time, but it's cool because it's right on the lake. And I'm from the Florida Keys, and when I looked at some pictures, I've never been there, but when I looked at some pictures, it kind of reminded me of a place on the ocean, on the water. So yeah, it's right on the water. They have the stage set up right outside, so I think we're gonna have a good time. Now, if it's too cold, they'll have me set up inside. But from what I understand, it's great Mexican food. Full bar. I'll keep it family friendly while the kids are there. But, if all the kids leave, we might spice it up a little bit. But for the most part, I'll keep it family friendly for the people. That's Trejos on the Lake. That's going from 7 until about 11 o'clock in the evening. And it's in Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's they're doing a lot of races, so there's a lot of people down there. So I suspect it's going to be a real good show. I know Mr. Trejo has been promoting this show, so I'm kind of excited. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people there. So good. No job too big, no job too small. And I have mentioned on the podcast, Clint Baggett. He's one of the Uber drivers. He's doing Uber down there in Hot Springs, but he comes from his house in Morrilton. And Clint Baggett has said, if you look him up, he can take about 7 people. He can pick them up all the way down there. So any of my people from Morrilton or Conway or even Little Rock want to go down to the show, hey, Clint Baggett can fit 7 people in his Uber. And then while you're messing around with me from 7 to 11, he can go Uber people around Hot Springs. So, yeah, look up Clint Baggett. Have I said his name enough times? Probably. I guess that's good marketing. Hey, speaking of marketing, I think it's time to get into it with Ben Baker. All right, Ben Baker up there in British Columbia. I'm kind of excited. Calling him, calling Ben Baker now.
Hi, Ben speaking.
Hey, Ben Baker.
It's me.
YourBrandMarketing.com.
That's what the rumor is.
It's Keys Dan with the What Makes You Famous podcast. I suspect by the end of this podcast, I will know everything there is to know about marketing.
Well, you know what? If you do, then you can tell me everything you know.
Excellent.
That'd be a good thing.
Well, I've been kind of excited about talking to you. You are a go-getter. I'm seeing you all over your social media. I have your various social media pages, and I'll definitely put them in the show notes. But let's get to know the man behind the marketing. Who is Ben Baker? Give the people an idea.
Who is Ben Baker? Ben Baker has been around, in the marketing and branding world probably for the last 25 years. Yeah, I came out of the high tech computer world, and about 25 years ago, I looked at myself, realized I was on a plane 200 days a year, and said I can't do this anymore. So I took some "what do you want to be when you grow up" type training.
Yeah, and
what it told me is that you like communicating, you like fixing problems for people, and you like articulating. And what it really taught me was you work really well with large corporations and you don't work well within large corporations. So there's where my marketing career started. And I started off in direct mail like a lot of people. We killed a lot of trees.
Oh, yeah. Before the interweb.
Did a lot of really neat, innovative programs, both in Canada and the United States. Put together some really neat things, got some clients really well known, and realized that as I was doing it, the question that came up over and over again is, okay, we're marketing, but what's the story we're telling? Who are you as a company? What differentiates you? What makes you different? And it really led me into realizing that where my forte was not in marketing, but in branding. And getting people to understand what differentiates them? Why should people care about them? Why should people spend money with them? And building on the strategy of the brand. About 5 years ago, an epiphany came up to me because I started talking to people inside companies and started realizing that, you know what? They don't understand their brand. The story's not being told well. There's not effective communication. The leaders aren't leading. And people are leaving companies because they're disengaged because they don't understand where the company is going or how they fit in. And where that led me to is where I am today. Is we work with companies to help them engage, retain, and grow. We help build better leaders, and we help tell the brand story inside the company, so people understand, where the company came from, where it is today, who they serve, why they serve it, why these people should care, what differentiates them, and where the company is going. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, Ben Baker, getting out of that nutshell, what had you on a plane 250 days out of the year, or at least had you traveling 250 days out of the year? What job were you doing way back then, 25 years ago?
Yeah, I worked for a small little company called Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro is a computer distribution company that sold to everybody at that point in time. In the U.S., it would have been the Best Buys and the Circuit Cities, and a lot of companies, the Costco's of the world, everything like that. Up in Canada, I was managing a company called Future Shop, which actually ended up being bought out by Best Buy.
Oh.
And what it allowed us to do is, what my job was to build the new programs for them, is to bring in the new products, to figure out what was going on, what was happening, and to make sure that we were putting the best face forward as we were bringing new products into the company.
Ben Baker, you were the Geek Squad before the Geek Squad was cool. Is that right?
You're gonna have to raise. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you were the Geek Squad before the Geek Squad was cool.
That's right. I was the Geek Squad before the Geek Squad was cool. So, we worked with the Geek Squad. We helped build that whole thing out. So that was a lot of fun. It was fun. It was fun. I got in there just before Best Buy was bought out by Future Shop. Mm-hmm. And so it was an interesting time. It was a time of transition. It was a time of flux, and it was really much the Wild West in the computer business.
Yeah,
we're talking 20+ years ago.
Yeah, give me a timeline. Was that 90, 95 then?
Probably 95, 96, somewhere in that range.
It's hard to believe that the 90s are 25 years ago. I still think of 10 years ago as the 90s. I'm a child of the 80s myself, and I had a stepfather that worked for an IBM type company, and he helped me build a computer, and I ran a BBS board way back then, and so I considered myself some type of a nerd. I wasn't the greatest at computers, but because of the osmosis, I had him to deal with. But I'm guessing you were much better at computers than I was. You worked for a Best Buy type company, but you were installing programs. You were installing computers at companies all over the country.
No. What we were doing is we were selling to Best Buy.
Okay.
We were selling to Best Buy. I was selling $100 million a year worth of computers and monitors and software and modems and network cards and all that kind of stuff to the Best Buy type companies.
Oh yeah.
So we were the wholesalers selling to the retailer who would sell to those different companies. To the individual.
Okay. So I didn't realize it.
I was on the wholesale side. So we had 500,000 square foot warehouses all over North America.
Okay.
Pumping out distribution. It's a small $12 billion company.
Oh, just tiny, no big deal. I mean,
tiny, no real significance, no real,
but
nothing of value whatsoever.
But this wasn't your company. Did you?
Interesting time.
Did you have some value in it? Did they at least give you some stock options in that thing, or any ownership at all?
That was before I had a chance to get stock options. If I was smart, I would have bought some stock back then, and maybe I'd be retired today, but who knows?
Oh yeah, if I had a time machine, yahoo! But oh my goodness, if we knew then what we know now, but you okay?
Yeah, I would have bought Apple at $14 a share.
Oh, you better believe it. Yeah. Forrest Gump, I get it. We don't have to worry about money anymore.
That's right.
So, have you always been in British Columbia? And whenever I think of Canada, I always think of it as some kind of a frozen tundra, like it's always icy in the Great White North. But you're on the water, just north of Washington State, right?
Yeah, I mean, we get the same weather as Seattle. So if it's raining in Seattle, it's raining in Vancouver. And, as they say, if you want to live in a rainforest, a little water may fall. So, we're wet 7, 8, 9 months a year, but you know what? When the sun shines, it's absolutely beautiful. I've lived in Vancouver off and on since 1974. I was born in the States. I was born in Minneapolis.
Oh.
I've lived in L.A. I've lived in New York. I've lived in Toronto. I've lived in Victoria. I've lived overseas for a few years. I've lived all over the place, but Vancouver's always been home.
Why all the traveling, Ben Baker?
You know what? One step ahead of the tax man. Why not? No, to be perfectly honest, I went to university in Victoria. There was a couple opportunities in LA that I went after. You know, went in Toronto. I had a girlfriend in New York, and when I lived overseas, I lived in Israel for 3 years. So I spent a year there at university and a couple of years working.
Wow, go getter. So what did you study in school? What's your area of expertise, at least book-wise?
Well, my degree is in international relations, Middle Eastern politics, with a subset and international terrorism. So that sets me up really well for computers and marketing.
He was kidding. He's not a terrorist. No, but you studied. You say you studied terrorism?
That's what I studied. I studied Middle Eastern terrorism.
Wow. Okay, that's bloody interesting. How did that go? And where can you go with that kind of a degree?
You know what? If I'd gone to get my master's and my PhD, probably would have become a policy wog. And would have become either an analyst for the CIA or who knows where else I would have ended up. But you know what? It was one of those things that it didn't lead enough of a passion in my life to take me on that road, and that's okay.
All right. So as a young lad, I'm guessing you went to school, well, either in Minneapolis or in British Columbia. Where did you go to high school?
No, I grew up in Vancouver. I moved to Vancouver when I was young, and basically went to school through elementary school and high school in Vancouver.
Okay. And what did you learn from the parents?
What did I learn from what? My parents?
Yeah, what did you learn from mom and dad? How did they treat you, and what did you take away from your upbringing?
Well, my father was an entrepreneur, and my mother taught English as a second language. She taught teachers how to teach English as a second language, and set up schools internationally. So between my two parents, their attitude was take chances. Figure things out, take risks, take calculated risks. But if you fall, you know what? Figure out why you fell, get up, dust yourself off, figure out how to change things, and move forward. So it was always a situation where there was always opportunity for me not only to take risks, but calculated risks and be able to be better because of it.
Well, that's what a teacher will do. They'll when you do something wrong, they make you do it over again and again and again. Now, entrepreneur, that word's been thrown around over the years, and a lot of people think entrepreneur and they go, "Oh, he just doesn't have a job." But no. Tell me what an entrepreneur, as in respect to your dad, what kind of an entrepreneur was he? What gave him that title?
You know what makes entrepreneur is he owned a construction company. He did commercial renovation for 35 or 40 years. Mm-hmm. And, he had one major client and a bunch of smaller ones. And his job was to take care of his clients and to fix problems and understand needs, work within budgets, and to help his clients achieve their goals.
Yes.
And that's what he did. Some days he made a lot of money, and some days he didn't make a lot of money, and some days, we live very well, and sometimes you don't. But you know what? We always had what we needed. We always had what was necessary to move forward. And what I learned from him was, you take care of your customers, and they take care of you. That's the biggest thing that I probably learned from my dad.
That's it, Ben Baker. All right, moms and dads that are listening, shape your children. They could become a Ben Baker. Growing up in school, you had aspirations, you had dreams, you had extracurricular activities. What were you doing in school as a young lad in Vancouver? Take me through. What is it like growing up in Vancouver, Canada, as somebody who's never been really north of the Mason-Dixon line? I've lived most of my life in the South, in Miami, and now I'm in Conway, Arkansas, just a little north of Little Rock. So still primarily in the South and not too cold. I think we had a flurry of snow today, and there's rumor that it's happening. But growing up in Vancouver, all we hear down here is you're into skating and hockey. What did Ben Baker do?
Well, upbringing for everybody is the same and it's different depending on where you came from and what you did. It's very much a middle class upbringing. Very much school was school. You had great teachers, you had bad teachers. You had things that were interesting that you learned. You had things that didn't interesting that you learned.
Mm-hmm.
You played volleyball, you played hockey, you played soccer, you played baseball. There was all the things growing up. Even played a little bit of rugby. And it was one of those things where you grew up, and you didn't have a lot of friends, but the friends you had were close.
Yeah.
And the ones that you took care of them, they took care of you, and you learned from each other. And that was pretty much my upbringing. I mean, the school was school. You went, you did, you passed your classes, and you moved forward. It wasn't anything that I would call this epitome upbringing or uplifting upbringing. It was growing up.
So
we all grow up. We all learn things. We all try things. We all fail, and we all learn from them and move forward. But that was my high school, and that was my elementary school.
All right. Well, yeah, it sounds like you didn't peak in high school, which is a good thing. Some kids,
you know what? Definitely didn't peak. I was definitely not the quarterback, and and I wasn't dating the head cheerleader. University was far more interesting.
Okay.
University was far more interesting. The courses that you took, the things that you did, the people that you met, the conversations that happened were far more interesting in university than they were in high school.
Mm-hmm. So it's a slow burn for Ben Baker, which is probably better. You learn some things growing up.
I'm still burning. I'll probably be burning for the next 30 or 40 years. So.
Yeah. Well, and with marketing, you with this internet, it's not the people just in British Columbia. You could help people all over the world. And with your international background, you definitely can, and you probably are. Tell me more about about your brand marketing, Ben Baker.
Yeah, I mean, my clients are worldwide. They are certainly not in Vancouver. My clients, I would say that 95 to 98% of my clients are not in Vancouver.
Okay.
Our clients are mid-sized companies that are going through flux in one way, shape, or form. They're either having rapid growth. There's been mergers, there's been acquisitions, there's been grandchildren taking over grandpa's company, whatever. But in one way, shape, or form, they've lost their sense of identity. They've lost who they are, and they don't understand what their brand story is anymore. And they don't tell it well internally. And there tends to be a lot of turnover within the company, and there tends to be some dissent within the company. And those are the companies that I work with. I work with the companies to understand where are the issues, what are the challenges, what are things that are, what's going on with the culture of the company? Is there a culture for the company? And be able to help rectify things and get people back to the fact where they enjoy working for the company, they're proud of working for the company, and they understand where the company is and where the company's going.
So you haven't met a lot of the people face-to-face or in person? You're doing a lot of things by Skype?
I always meet my customers face-to-face at least once.
Oh.
It's very important for me to get on a plane.
So you're still on planes.
I'm still on a plane, but I'm certainly not on a plane anywhere near what I was.
Right. You're not on a plane for anybody else but yourself, and I like that. And I'm sure you like that.
Exactly.
So, and these are things that you learn from your dad. Yeah, you work hard. You're going to make some money, and some days are going to be soft. Some days are going to be, a little less soft. But as long as you work hard, you're going to keep that roof over your head. So you say mid-sized business. Is that a number of employees, maybe 20 employees or less? What is a mid-sized business, and what types of businesses are you working with?
Well, we work with companies that start at about 200 employees. And, and go all the way up there. We deal with, everything all the way up to enterprise-level corporations. Enterprise-level corporations bring us in usually when they're having a departmental or a problem with an office or a division or something along those lines. We don't tend to get involved, enterprise level.
Okay.
We tend to get involved, when we're dealing with an enterprise company, we're dealing with them on a segment of their overall business, because we're just not big enough to handle an enterprise level corporation one to one. They need the Deloittes or the Kinsleys or somewhere along those lines. Mm-hmm. But for the 200 to 2,000 employee companies, what we're doing is we're coming in and we're working with them to understand where's the hole in the dike and how do we fix it. What needs to happen to turn the unhappy employees into productive employees? How do we stem the tide so all of a sudden every 12 to 18 months they're not having this revolving door of employees? Those are the type of issues that we work with.
Yeah, I read something on your LinkedIn that about the employees. What was the number that I saw that when a company loses an employee?
Every employee that you lose costs you approximately $100,000 to replace. And it's not just the hard costs; it's the soft costs that go along with it. It's the fact when employees leave, they take people with them. Jobs get missed when employees leave. People around them end up having to take up the slack, and therefore they're not as efficient as they need to be. People leave the company and take other employees with them. There's so many factors involved when an employee leaves that most people don't take into consideration, and things that get missed because a company leaves, or clients that get frustrated and walk out the door. There's so many different factors that can cause that price point to be actualized. It's not just the fact that you have to hire somebody and put them through the psychometric training and onboard them and train them and get them up to speed, but what happens, getting them acculturated to the company, what happens when they make a mistake and you have to fix that mistake because they just don't know what they don't know. All those factors most companies don't take into consideration when they realize when a person leaves and what it costs to bring a new person on. And it's so much cheaper to figure out what the problem is. What's causing people to walk out the door? And most companies just never take the time to figure it out. They're so worried about hiring efficiently that they forget that there are more people leaving than they are hiring.
Okay, so Ben Baker, when you go to these companies, are you familiar with Office Space?
With
the movie,
Office Space?
The movie Office Space?
No, that's not what I'm familiar with.
Okay, all right. Well, in this movie, there was a couple of characters called Bob. They were both named Bob, and the company employees had to justify to them what their job was, and what they were trying to do was trim the fat. Is that something that your marketing company does? Do you actually go in and help to fix the problems with individuals,
Yep.
or you talk to the higher ups mostly?
We're not efficiency experts. My job is not to get people fired. My job is to sit there and say, okay, where's the issues? And sometimes you're right, it is a very unhappy employee. Mm-hmm. The question that I'm asking is, why is that employee happy? What are the policies and procedures that are going on within the company? What are the dynamics? What are the cultural things that are going on inside the company that could be causing this person to be unhappy? Maybe they're just in the wrong job. Maybe they've got a manager that just doesn't communicate with them effectively. Maybe they've got some stress and challenges at home and nobody's talking to them about it. Maybe they don't feel empowered to be able to make decisions, or they don't feel that their job really matters. There's so many factors involved, and that's where we get involved, is to understand what are the challenges that are actually going on in the company that are keeping employees from feeling that their work is valuable and that they're listened to, understood, and for that matter, valued as human beings.
That sounds like you do a lot more than just the marketing. You get to deal with some of the employees and find out what the ins and outs are of them. And you find it might be a little bit of an efficiency expert, but do you get to deal with some of the individual problems and find solutions to those problems, or is this primarily making sure that the company is heard out in the world on the internet and the social media?
No, it has nothing to do with external branding. It has nothing to do with external marketing. What I'm doing is doing the marketing and the branding and the communication inside the company. My attitude is, and I've proven this time and time again, that when employees are engaged, they retain, and they want to grow with the company, and they feel valued, and they feel that their job matters, they become better advocates for the brand. If they understand the brand story, where you were, where you are, and where you're going, they can turn around and they can be the best marketers and the best advocates for your brand, create better customer experience for your customers, and create more loyal customers.
Right. If they have some sense of ownership, I find that if every Joe job that I've ever had in my lifetime, if I felt like I was a part of something or growing with something, I felt like a better employee, and that's something that you attempt to do within companies, is to make sure that they're communicating with each other. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. Make sure that people communicate with each other. Make sure that the leaders are leading. They're not managing people. They're leading people. You manage projects. You lead people.
Hitting the nail on the head. Give me a difference between a boss and a leader.
The difference between a boss and a leader, and I'm going to use straight out of the Simon Sinek story is probably the best way to do it. Simon Sinek is an employee walks into the office. He's been late 5 days in a row. The manager comes up and says, "You've been late 5 days in a row. Late one more time, we're going to have to report you and you might get fired." A leader walks up to the person and says, "You've been late 5 days in a row. Is everything okay?" That's the difference between a leader and a manager. Yes.
Oh, I feel you. I like the way you explain that, Ben Baker. Oh, so, all right, maybe I won't learn everything there is to know about your brand marketing. So you're not dealing with any of the social media and building websites or any of that type of thing. You primarily go to the companies and work with them.
Yes, it's telling the story inside the company. It's understanding what is the brand story within the company. What is your mission, vision, and values of the company? Where did you come from? Where are you? Where are you going? How do individual people fit into this? And how do you get them to all understand that story in a way that they can recall and they can retell in a way that's meaningful to them? So that's what we do.
What made you feel, Ben Baker? Was it 5 years ago that you started to really delve into this? What had you been doing prior to this? And did you get out of that company that you were the Best Buy type company before Best Buy bought them?
Well, I haven't been involved in that for 20 plus years.
Okay.
That's 20, 25 years ago.
So after that 20, 25 years ago, what have you been doing for those 20 years to get you where you are now? What types of jobs were you doing?
I've always been in the same business. I've always been in marketing. I've always been in the branding business. As I said when I got into it, it says, I went from direct mail to promotional marketing to branding, where what I was doing was understanding what is somebody's story, what is the thing that's valuable, what makes them different, what makes them special, what makes them unique. That's the brand. So we worked with companies to understand their brand before we could market it. And that's by understanding that, we realize that when you're branding and you're marketing, all you're doing is communicating to the outside the company. But your employees, 9 times out of 10, don't understand what the value is. And unless your internal customers, your employees understand the value of your brand, they can't communicate your value and they can't provide the customer experience that you want to your customers.
So in that 20 years, you've been building your own knowledge base, working for other people. And what made that turn 5 years ago to say, you know what, my name's Ben Baker. I want to do this on my own. I think I could do it better. Let me make up your brand marketing.
Well, I've been on my own a lot longer than 5 years.
Gotcha.
I've been on my own a lot longer than 5 years. It was just a change in division of the company. The company, for lack of a better word, a raison d'etre, the reason for being changed about 5 years ago. The company itself is 13 years old, and before that, I was doing very similar work working for somebody else.
Yes. So, many years in the making, but 5 years ago, you came to a turning point. What was the first type of client? You don't have to name them if you don't want to, but what was the first type of client that you said, I'm going to take this on my own and do something different with it? How many employees did they have, and what did you do to help them be better?
Well, when I moved out on my own 13 years ago, it actually was in 2008, so late 2007, 2008. I had a book of clients. I had clients that knew, like, and trusted me, that had been working with me for 7 or 8 years at that point in time. That liked me, that thought that I did good work for them, and felt that I was going to take care of them. And when I went out on my own, they just came with me.
This is exactly what you're talking about with the $100,000. And they lost you as an employee, whoever that was, and you took all these clients with you. And sad for them, but good for you. I mean, but that's what happens. And you've proven exactly what you have stated on your LinkedIn, that they're going to lose money by losing you. So they couldn't come to any kind of agreement that made you satisfied enough to stay with them. You said, I'm going on my own, and there was nothing stopping you.
No, it was time. The market had changed, the relationship had changed, and it was time to change where I was and what I was doing and who I was doing it for, and it was time to hang out my own shingle. And it was the timing was right, and I had the support of my clients, and I had the support of my suppliers, and it was time to do things in a way that that I could do it my way and take care of the clients the way I felt they should be taken care of, and not the way somebody else thought they should be taken care of.
Oh, my life in movies. Now I'm thinking Jerry Maguire. It's you stepping out on your own, doing your own thing. Now, are you familiar with Jerry Maguire?
I am very familiar with Jerry Maguire.
That's right.
Help me help you.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing with your clients. So those 7 or 8 that you took with you, are they still with you, or were they satisfied, or did they get what they needed from you?
I would say that of those clients, 13 years later, probably 75% of those clients are still with me.
Let's do it. That is fantastic, Ben Baker. That's a good track record. That says a lot about who you are. You keep these relationships up, business. And I didn't go with the personal. Do you still have any friends from school, or do you have at least one pal that you could hang out with? Because I think I have one pal from high school. And I have a few acquaintances.
There's no one from high school, but there are people that I have friends with that are 25 years plus.
Yes, long-lasting relationships. You really only need that 1 or 2 best friends, though. I mean, the ones that you can go hang out with. But that's great. Okay, so what? Let's go with that. What do you do after work? What do you like to do when you're not building other people's businesses? When you're not marketing? What's your leisure life like?
The big thing is golf. I love golf. It's something I do with friends. It's things I do with my son. It's a passion of mine, and it gives me something that allows me to have a release from work and actually just sit there and work on something that's physical and not mental.
Yeah, that could be a very expensive hobby. And I listen to Freakonomics radio, and I know they've talked a lot about corporate. They're playing golf. Is it good or is it bad for the company? Do people waste too much time and money out on the golf course schmoozing their clients? But this is primarily purely leisure for you. No schmoozing of clients on the golf course, or does that happen?
I mean, over the years I've taken more clients out for games of golf, and I wouldn't call it schmoozing. I call it a way to get the cell phone turned off, the distractions put away, in a way that you can actually get to know somebody as a human being.
I like that. Getting some fresh air out there and having a genuine conversation. Now, I noticed that
I have a genuine conversation. It has nothing to do with work. It has nothing to do with any particular job that you have going on. It just has to do with talking about the things that are important to them outside of work. And there's things that happen because of those relationships on the golf course.
It's the whole selfish reason that I started this podcast, to meet people. And now I'm meeting you, Ben Baker. You seem very interesting, and I wanted to know more about you, and I'm happy to talk to you, man. So you do it golfing. I played putt-putt golf. I've seen golf courses. And what was it that they said in Caddyshack? Was it maybe it was Caddyshack 2, biggest waste of real estate. But you find actual value in being on the golf course. Okay, I don't know anything about golf, but how's your game? What's your handicap?
You know what? My handicap is my 7-iron, but that's something that you may or may not find funny.
See, I wouldn't know, but I'm sure one or two of my listeners is probably listening to it, and they're guffawing to no end.
Yeah. I used, at one point in time, I was down at a 6 or 8 handicap. I'm probably around about an 18 handicap now, maybe 19 handicap. But I much more enjoy the game as a 19 handicap than I probably ever did as a 6 or 8 handicap.
Sounds impressive to me, Ben Baker. So, what other avenues do you explore? I've noticed on your YouTube you have many videos. And do you have a podcast of your own?
I do. I've had a podcast for about 2.5 years.
Excellent.
Spent some time on the radio, spent some time doing live, Facebook Lives, but it's been a steady podcast for about 2.5 years.
Excellent. I've done radio since '86, on and off, and terrestrial for the most part. But I have my online radio station. But tell me more about your time in radio.
Well, the radio is I was working for a company called K4HD Radio, which is internet radio,
mm-hmm.
and it was what I didn't like about it is the structure.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. You're on for 10 minutes, and then you go away from commercial break. You come back, you have another 15, 20 minutes with a guest. You go back out for commercial break. You come back. You do a closing with a guest. You go out for commercial break again. You come back. You say goodbye to the guest. You do a close up. You sign off, and then it goes into the trailer. It became too methodical.
Oh yeah.
I much prefer the podcasting world where if my podcast is 28 minutes, it's 28 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 35 minutes, it's 35 minutes. It's as long as I'm adding value to my audience.
I know
if I think somebody should be cut a little short, we'll cut them a little short. If I think that the conversation is well and it should go long, it goes a little bit long. And I'm not beholden to a time frame, and I'm not beholden to make sure that somebody is there on the air at a certain time and a certain date.
Ben Baker, I know I have quite a few listeners down in Miami that still work on terrestrial radio, where I used to work in South Florida. And I think I've done some radio. Well, I don't think, but I know I've done some radio here in Little Rock, but not nearly as much as I did in South Florida. That was a much bigger market. And I remember living by the clock. Oh, my goodness. You got at 10 after, you got to do this. At 14 after, you got to do this. And you live by the clock segments. And yes, You're right. Long form interviews, long form podcast is the way to go. You don't get sound bites. You get more in depth of who the person is. We already went over your brand marketing. We know what you do. But now we're getting to know who you are, how you grew up a little bit. You've been all over this planet, man, and you've learned some things from different people, and international. I mean, that had to have helped you, shape your life, knowing. Well, tell me about living in Israel. I've never been there. I want to know more.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a year at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. I did a year abroad doing a part of my political science degree, and when I graduated from the university, I went back to Israel, and I got a job working in a computer company for a couple of years, and I was building computers for different government ministries, swapping out hard drives and setting systems up so the Novell guys could come up behind me and do all the networking stuff. So, I mean, that was an interesting couple of years.
Yeah.
You don't get paid very well. The dollars and cents just are nothing like you could make in North America. But it's a lot more honest living. People say what they want to say, they do what they want to do, and people live with far fewer regrets.
No, you're getting that life experience too.
I much prefer the Israeli mentality to I do a lot of the stuff that you get in North America. I think people are afraid to say what they want to say because they're worried about the repercussions. People say what they say. You know what? You deal with it. You move on. There isn't that. They said something 6 years ago, so I'm going to hold a grudge against them. It's just not the way the world works.
Okay, my life in movies. I'm thinking of Adam Sandler in Remember the Zohan or the Zohan. He's
the Zohar,
whoever. And he came to the States thinking, there was some, oh my goodness, there's Arabs across the street, and I'm going to have trouble with them. Nope. Everybody's in this melting pot. But you found that the people of Israel were a good class of people, at least the ones that you were working with, that you found some good ideas, and you gained that knowledge, man, that life knowledge. I like that, Ben Baker.
Yeah, I mean, we are a culmination of our experiences.
Yes.
Every single one of us is a culmination of our experiences. The people we've met, the stories we've created, the things we've done, the mistakes we've had. Mm-hmm. Whatever have brought us to this point makes us better. Yes. And it's learning from our experiences and being able to appreciate the good and not get beating yourself up because of the bad, and realize that all of it are lessons that make you better and make you part of who you are today. And that's what it is. So my attitude is, the more things I can experience, the more things I can do, the better off my life becomes.
Words of wisdom, Ben Baker. All right. Well, tell me more about your podcast. And is that still going? Is it weekly? Is it daily?
The podcast is weekly. It's called the Your Living Brand.live show. It's, you can find it anywhere. It's on Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you find, podcasts, you can subscribe to it. The key thing with my podcast is we interview a different company every single week, a different person every week, and the question is, what's your story? What makes you different? What makes you unique? How do you communicate your value to others? What are the things that you do that your competitors don't? What are the things that you believe in that your customers, that make you valuable to your customers? Why do they care about you? And it's a conversation. It's, I know the first question I'm going to ask my guests. I know the last question I'm going to ask my guests, and everything in between is a conversation.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing the places that those conversations lead us.
Yes, and that's a little bonus that I'm guessing that you can give to your clients as well, right? I'm guessing you've gotten a lot of your clients a little extra juice by being on your podcast, right?
They are, and a lot of my clients are on my podcast.
That's fantastic. All right, Ben Baker, your brand marketing. You give me a little more idea, and my listeners a little more idea of who you are and what you do. I mean, I thought, well, when I first saw it, I thought, well, maybe he helps with social media. And I have talked to at least two people on this podcast that do the social media and the branding and make sure that people, get their companies get their names out there and they're able to be seen. And then another one that was a webmaster, and he does the SEO and makes sure that the website gets hits on Google. But that's not you. That's not what you do. You go into the companies, and personally, how often do you go in? As often as you need to, I'm guessing?
Pretty much as often as I need to. I mean, the engagements that I have with clients can be, coming in for a week and just doing a triage to be several year engagements. It really depends what my customers need. And sometimes I work with them for 6 months and I leave them alone, and a year later they give me a call and say, we need a tune-up and we need some more help. We have some different things that have come up. Can you help us again? It all depends on what does that particular customer need at that particular point in time. And And that's how we come in. Our attitude is there are no preconceived notions. There is no cookie, there's no box. There's no cookie cutter approach. It's figuring out what's their particular pain point, what's driving them crazy, what are the challenges that they're having, and let's figure a way to fix it together.
Oh, that sounds proper to me, Ben Baker. Just personalized attention, and it's structured to their needs, and that's what you do. You go in, you identify the situation, how you can help, and the first person you're talking to is their, I guess, their higher up, their corporate leaders, and then you go down the line as needed. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always talking to the senior, to the C-suite.
Right.
I'm always talking to the leaders of the company to figure out, what is their view of the situation, because I need to understand it from all points of view.
Right.
But if you don't get buy-in from the C-suite, if the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the CTO, whoever is not buying in on this,
yeah,
change will never happen. Because change is based on culture, it's based on communication, and it's based on, changing how you do the things that you do on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And if there isn't real change within the organization after I leave, people will go back to the habits of doing the things the way they've always done it.
Well, that's the way it's structured. I mean, companies have to be from the top down. Nobody's going to care about that company more than the owner, more than the manager, the one who's on top that built this from the ground up. The reason he's on top in most cases, or in a lot of cases, is because they started that company, blah blah blah, years ago, and they've built it to their 200 or 2,000 employees. And nobody cares about my company more than me. So it has to be across the board the same way. When you meet these CEOs and managing owners, you have to swing their vote and swing their vision or know their vision for the company before you can make any real changes. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's just like as Gary Vaynerchuk says. He says, if you want your employees to care as much about your company as you do, give them ownership.
Yes, we spoke briefly about that before. If I feel an ownership, I'm going to clean that paper, off the ground. If I feel like this is partially my company, and not just because I have stock, but because I feel like I'm part of something big, I'm going to be the guy wiping the counters and making sure that there's no dust. No job too small, no job too big. Even if it's out of my scope, I feel ownership, and that's what you're helping these people to.
That's what it's all about. It's all about giving
Yes.
people a sense of pride and a sense of ownership.
Okay, and I know
One way, shape.
I asked a little bit before. What types of companies are you dealing with? Or you don't have to give the names if you don't want to, but what types?
No, it's
and
fine.
how big they are.
The majority of the companies that we deal with are all business-to-business type corporations. We deal with insurance, we deal with finance, we deal with transportation, we deal with logistics, manufacturing. Those are the type of companies that we tend to spend the most time in, and those are the companies we have the most success with.
Excellent. So if anybody needs help, they know where to go. Ben Baker, your brand marketing. Tell the people any more avenues you want to explore. Do you think we got it?
No, just one last thing. I'll give everybody a bonus. If you go to my website and you go to I'll just take a look at where exactly it is on my website. If you go to yourbrandmarketing.com, you go under the Work with Ben and go to the online courses. There's a free online course called Know, Like, and Trust that anybody can take online for free. So if you go up to yourbrandmarketing.com, you go under Work with Ben to the online courses tab. You can take a look at the Know, Like, and Trust course. and that's an online course that people can take free of charge.
Look at you. I'm looking at it right now. That's excellent, man. That's a little bonus from Ben Baker to you, my dear listeners. All right. Well, I'll definitely put all the links to you in the show notes. Do you want them to go all your Facebook and your Twitter and your LinkedIn?
The best way to get in touch with me is either through my website. My email address is there. My phone number is right there, right on the top right-hand corner on my website. You can get to my social media there, but LinkedIn is probably the best place to get in touch with me at Your Brand Marketing. I spend most of the time on LinkedIn.
Excellent.
So, connect with me through my website, and that's probably the best way at yourbrandmarketing.com.
Ben Baker, Your Brand Marketing, man. Just a pleasure talking to you. Usually at the end, and you say you always have a first question and a last question. I think I've only come up with the last question idea, and it's not even a question. I give the people the last words for the people, and it could be words of wisdom that you live by, or just something that something profound or not so profound that you want to leave the people with. Ben Baker.
Yeah. The one that I want people to realize is that, employees don't want to leave your company. People leave companies where they don't feel listened to, understood, and valued, where they don't feel that there's a sense of purpose, and they don't feel that what the work that they do is valued. If you can give employees a sense of value, if you can get them to understand how they are part of the overall success of the company and communicate your mission, vision, and values in a way that people understand and internalize, they're going to stay and they're going to become brand ambassadors for you, and they're going to provide your customers with amazing customer experience. So take care of your people, and they'll take care of your customers. And that's where your profits are going to come from.
Well, there you have it, party people. Ben Baker, yourbrandmarketing.com. See, when I first got into it with him, I thought, well, maybe he does social media or something like that. No, turn my head around. The man works from the inside of the company out, making sure that the people are happy doing what they're doing. A happy employee makes a happy company. If your employees are happy, they're going to be more productive. If they have ownership, if they feel like they're part of something bigger, they will grow. Your company will grow if your employees are happy. And every company, he proved it in the podcast. Any employee that leaves is going to take some business with them, not just because you're losing that employee and you got to take the time to hire somebody else. But he took 7 to 8 clients with him. So that company did lose some money when they lost Ben Baker. So he proved it in the podcast, exactly what he's been saying. Don't lose your employees. You took the time to train them, to get them, to shape them into what you want them to do. And losing that employee is going to cost your company so much. The proof is in the pudding. Ben Baker, he's learned it from firsthand experience. And he wants to give that knowledge to you and your company. And so if you got a company that's maybe struggling a little bit, give Ben Baker a call. Check him out at yourbrandmarketing.com. And all his social links are down there on the bottom. And check out his podcast. I know I found it on YouTube, but you can find it pretty much everywhere, on the whole Apple Podcast, Google Podcast things. So after you're done listening to this show, give Ben Baker's show a listen while you're doing what you do. That's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call at 501-470-6386 or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.
Follow Keys Dan on Facebook and Twitter. Click on the links at the top of keysdan.com. Follow Radio What on Facebook and Twitter. Click on the links at the top of radiowhat.com. The music you want is on.
If you like what you hear, follow What Makes You Famous social media. Use the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Follow on Facebook at What Makes You Famous. Follow on Instagram at What Makes You Famous. Follow on Twitter at Makes Famous. And follow on YouTube at Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Famous podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Famous podcast on Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and almost anywhere you find podcasts. Tell your story on my podcast, What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time. You can support What Makes You Famous using the PayPal link, paypal.me/KeysDan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Famous podcast is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening.
Radio What? The music you want with some great quotes. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, you'll be a man, my son. Rudyard Kipling. The music you want. RadioWhat.com.